Number 1. Wonder Woman. Coming off the debut of Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and having delivered an intriguing and refreshing relaunch courtesy of Bria Nazarello for the New 52, more eyes than ever before were resting on Wonder Woman, Rebirth, and DC knew it. Why else have Greg Rucka, a writer famous for his previous time with Diana, lead the charge? And lead it he has, with the twice-monthly release schedule being used to tell not one, but two Wonder Woman stories at once. One, a new origin story, and the other set in the present day, as Diana seeks to unravel the truth of her ever-changing history. How's that for meta? The pitch may be promising, but the results have exceeded most hopes. A new origin story going forward is always a draw, but Rucka and artist Nicola Scott are already crafting one of the most intriguing, reverent and visually polished origins Diana has ever gotten. On opposite weeks, Rucka and artist Liam Sharp are hitting the same sentimental notes as they lead Diana up against past friends and foes in search of the truth, exposing the core of her character in as poignant and powerful a manner as can probably be done in single issues, while also turning in one of DC's best-looking Rebirth titles, period. Words can only describe the series so much, so we'll be direct. If you read just one Wonder Woman comic, or have been meaning to for some time, now is the time. Number 2. Green Arrow. For those following the release, and reception, of DC's Rebirth, it should come as no surprise to see Benjamin Percy's Green Arrow on our list of must-reads, after the hero's first issues didn't just lead off the company-wide initiative but sold more issues than Oliver Queen had ever thought possible. It was no accident either, since the art style of Otto Schmidt was more than enough to turn heads, assuming the covers, drawn by artist Juan Ferrara, currently drawing the interiors, as well, didn't. But it was Percy's continued interest in stripping Oliver down to his core that kept fans coming back, having shown a new crop of readers why Green Arrow is his own kind of hero despite what other adaptations might imply. The Percy/Schmidt pairing saw Oliver united with Black Canary after the New 52 had kept them apart, and sent Oliver up against a massive, twisted, all-powerful conspiracy out to erase everyone Oliver cared about. Ferrara's work has been just as acclaimed as that conflict reached a fever pitch, and for fans of the Green Arrow both old and new, the future has never looked brighter for the Archer, even if it's also insanely dark and horrifying at the same time. Best moment so far, this one's easy, anytime Oliver and Dinah share the page, or better yet, the same panel. Number 3. Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. Heading into DC's Rebirth, there was one superhero whose stock was obviously on the rise, with the publisher making the most of fan excitement and enthusiasm for Barbara Gordon aka Batgirl. Headlining not one, but two DC books, the assumption that Batgirl and the Birds of Prey would be a worthwhile read out of the starting blocks seemed a safe one, especially with Batgirl becoming a mascot for young female readers everywhere, and Black Canary getting TV exposure thanks to the CW's Arrow. But we didn't know just what to expect from Shuar and Julie Benson, shifting to comics from their run on the 100, or artist Clairo, the three women forming what they referred to as a superhero trio of their own. The reality was one of the strongest first issues in the Rebirth lineup in terms of setting the tone, characters, and conflicts in place. As always, Batgirl was the plucky but potentially explosive prime mover, Huntress was a deadly fighter out for justified revenge, and Black Canary was, well, keeping so cool a head as to imply she's compiling a shopping list while cracking skulls. The first issue doubled down on that attitude and fun, delivering 3 badass women DC readers could root for while demonstrating just how much early success can be bought when writer and artist are so clearly working towards the same goal. The Black Canary fans have longed for. Check. Character and conflict based on actual human traits. Check. But perhaps the best compliment that can be paid to Batgirl and the Birds of Prey thus far is that it's a perfect counterpart to one of DC's most surprising hits and the next entry on our list. Best moment so far, the first issue is basically Row demonstrating the full range of Dinah Lance's eye rolls and scowls, but that's the exact moment that All-Star begins its backup feature, showing what happens after the scene. Number 4. Itwig. Alright, time for Jason Todd to step aside and let the original Robin shine. Although, to be fair, Dick Grayson doesn't really need any cheerleaders for his side, considering his own Rebirth was the best-selling title in DC's entire lineup, second only to the Justice League and Batman. Take a second to really let that one sink in. Thankfully, those who put their faith in Itwig haven't left disappointed, with writer Tim Seeley delivering a story that doesn't just continue Batman's conflict with Gotham's Court of Owls, but is once again forcing Grayson to wonder what kind of hero he wants to be. That's mainly due to Grayson's new court-appointed partner, Raptor, whose methods are a bit more meta and questionable than someone like Batman would appreciate. There's a kind of simple brilliance in using Rebirth to have Dick let his mind wander to his circus beginnings, and how they actually defined and continue to define how he sees the world, and his place in it. By adding an effective assassin who is, in many ways, the kind of hero that the young Dick Grayson would have dreamed of becoming, Itwig has a dilemma on his hands. The reality check of seeing a nomadic circus acrobat face off against the daughter of a police commissioner is fruitful territory for a good writer. But when those two happen to be Itwig and Batgirl, readers may start seeing their favorite heroes in new ways. The bottom line: Dick Grayson is infinitely more interesting than just Batman's sidekick, and Itwig, Rebirth is making that perfectly clear. Best moment so far: Raptor introducing himself by beating Itwig bloody is a good first impression, but we won't be forgetting Javier Fernandez's artwork leading Dick, Raptor and Batgirl through a mansion-sized maze anytime soon. Number 5. Red Hood and the Outlaws. Every fan of the Bat knows the story of Jason Todd aka Red Hood aka Robin aka the boy who died. The hot-headed street rat recruited by Batman as his next Robin, beaten to death by the Joker, only to return from the grave as a bitter, brutal badass in a red helmet. Unfortunately, for as iconic and significant as Jason's death may have been for Bruce Wayne, Jason didn't just go away. And for obvious reasons, writers since have had a hard time finding a lasting place for him in the larger Batman universe. Part hero, part villain, harmless to heroes or downright homicidal, the character has changed like the seasons. Fans can't even agree on his hair color. So imagine our surprise to find that not only was Red Hood and the Outlaws, Rebirth, a visually thrilling book courtesy of artist Dexter Soy, but an introduction to Jason Todd that was both faithful to the character, and a more promising start than we ever expected. Writer Scott Lobdell gives a recap of Jason's origin story for new readers, positioning Jason as absolutely nothing like the man Bruce Wayne wanted him to be, but that doesn't mean he's useless, a lost cause, or lacking where it matters. At least, that's the point Jason is out to prove, with a strong implication that his childhood with Bruce means more to him than he would admit. That alone makes Red Hood a comic not to be missed, with Lobdell and Soy the kind of gritty, attitude-soaked team that Todd would probably have chosen for himself. Oh, and he's also going to be teaming up with a renegade Amazonian warrior and Bizarro. So there's that, too. Best moment so far. There's been several great moments thanks to Lobdell's words and Soy's art, as they are credited in the book, but nothing can compare to the heartache, regret and power of seeing Jason's hands reaching out for a photo of he and Bruce actually smiling kept on a shelf next to the Batmobile's wheel he stole on the night the two first met. Number 6. Detective Comics. Nobody would have complained if writer James Tynion IV had come up with yet another Batman-focused story for the reborn Detective Comics to go along with King's and Sidders, so it's a good thing that his best story not only relied on most of the recent Batman family characters, but moved the spotlight from the Caped Crusader. With the first issue post-Rebirth, Detective Comics had already established itself as Batwoman's story, giving the criminally underrated Kate Kane her time in the sun. But as the issues have rolled out, everyone Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, Cassandra Cain, and Dick Clayface have gotten a memorable moment of their own. Moving the sidekicks center stage makes this a must-read for any of their fans, fleshing out the world of Gotham City by showing that at time, Bruce Wayne might actually have the least going on out of everyone fighting alongside him. The villain, of the story also happened to be Batman's worst nightmare, and directly tied to a member of the team. But with a new headquarters, new heroes, and new ambitions for the team members, Tynion has made Detective Comics the go-to book for fans of the larger Batman world. Best moment so far, seeing the reformed villain Clayface reveal his brilliant escape plan for the rest of the team in issue number 93/6 is hard to beat, but the latest cliffhanger starring Tim Drake entering his greatest fight yet takes the top spot. Number 7. Action Comics. As we mentioned above, it's the solo Superman book that's covering Clark Kent's return to the job, training his son, and battling a new Eradicator. But in the pages of Action Comics, the other Superman-led DC title, he's got a more epic battle on his hands. It seems that writer Dan Jurgens has decided that after finally deciding that the world needs its Superman, even an older version returned from a parallel universe, Clark Kent should be faced with his greatest enemy, Doomsday. You see, while this older version of Clark already battled Doomsday 2 decades ago, the Kryptonian monster had yet to raise his nasty head in the new 52's younger timeline. The rematch with Doomsday calls on familiar imagery from the original Death of Superman story, but is much, much more than a retread. Jurgens makes the most of the changes, focusing on Lois Lane's horror at seeing history possibly repeat itself, and the added risk and motivation, this time around with Superman having a wife and child to worry about. Add in an actual totally good Lex Luthor in an armor suit helping Supes out along with Wonder Woman and the added wrinkle of a depowered Clark Kent among those in harm's way, it makes more sense in the actual comic, trust us, and Action Comics is doing its star proud. Both Superman books are treading new ground with plenty of homage, but Action has Doomsday to help tip the scales. Best moment so far, we won't outright spoil the conclusion to Superman's battle with Doomsday, but seeing Wonder Woman arrive in the nick of time, and Supes concoct the perfect strategy to win the fight he previously lost is a thrill for any Superman fan, young or old. Number 8. All-Star Batman. Look, nobody needs to be given a justification for reading anything written by Scott Snyder. And after delivering what will probably be looked back on as the most consistently solid 50 issues of Batman comics, Snyder's departure was a hard pill to swallow until fans learned he'd be able to tackle a new Batman story all his own. The title alone, All-Star Batman, set hopes sky high, and the first issue showed what story Sitter had in mind that could call upon the specific talents of artist John Romita, Jr. In short, a trip across the country to an unknown location, with Two-Face cuffed at his side, and every villain or vigilante coming to take him down for the fat prize on his head. As if it weren't enough to pit Batman against one enemy after another in a road trip from hell, or let inker Danny Miki and colorist Dean White make Romita's pencils look better than ever before, Sitter also has a backup story enticing enough to sell copies on its own. We still don't know which narrative we are most curious to see play out, Batman and Two-Face's mysterious journey, or the secret history of Batman's many sidekicks and their training, but fortunately for us, and readers, we don't actually have to decide. Best moment so far, being ganged up on by Firefly and Black Spider leaves Batman scrambling. But after a nifty diversion in a rural field lets Bats get the drop on his enemy, he makes the most of it, chainsaw in hand. Yep, chainsaw. Once Firefly gets a look at how he's used it on his partner, all it takes is a glance to send him running. Number 9. The Flash. As most fans of the DC's Scarlet Speedster will tell you, the mandate to return to the heart of a hero like Barry Allen is easier said than done. Not because it's a more difficult task, simply because Barry never strays too far from it to begin with. So with The Flash, Rebirth, writer Joshua Williamson had to craft a challenge of his own, namely, give Barry what he's secretly been missing and longing for and build a new threat out of that. In practice, that means having the Speed Force lightning that chose him as its speedy champion choose a brand new partner. And then another and another and another. The rush of nostalgia that came flooding back when Barry recalled his time with Kid Flash in DC Universe, Rebirth clearly struck a chord in the DCU itself, creating a new generation of speedsters for Barry to train. Sure, there are still ghastly crimes, Speed Force battles and a brand new villain, but even Barry acknowledges that he's beginning a new chapter of his career. Barry Allen the Teacher. That's reason enough for any Flash fan to pay attention, and with artist Carmine Giordamico launching the series with energy crackling off the page before handing it off to Neil Gooch's softer, expressive style, it's every bit as wholesome as Barry himself. Best moment so far, Barry Allen's always had an abundance of leadership and ideal mentoring qualities. But seeing him issuing commands to his speedster partners, one a CCPD detective, the other a STR Labs instructor, along with two students, turns a cool idea into a new kind of action scene for the Flash. The students' amazement that the Flash actually knows their names is just icing on the cake. Number 10. Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. Of all the Rebirth titles returning to the roots of the heroes, or beginning new chapters simple for newcomers to jump on board with, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps stands apart. Because as Jessica and Simon take over their duties as the new Lanterns of Earth, the landscape for the Corps as a whole is not looking good. Assuming some readers may have strayed from Robert Vedetai's Green Lantern series prior to the Rebirth, allow us to set the stage. The Corps is gone. The Guardians are gone. The planet OA is gone. And Hal Jordan has put his time as Green Lantern of Earth behind him. Obviously, that's a pretty bleak setting. But Vedetai wastes no time in making the most of it, because it's also the perfect opportunity for Hal to embrace the ring once more, and arrive on the scene to show the galaxy, and the reader, that willpower isn't dead. And as long as he's still fighting, nothing is certain. The series does give readers a bit of a crash course to get them up to speed, and before long, Siestro's communion with Parallax, Campaign of Fear, and the re-emergence of the core most familiar faces hits every single note fans hope for in a Green Lantern adventure. Best moment so far, artist Rafa Sandoval has been delivering pitch-perfect visuals for a while now, but it doesn't get much better than Ether Van Sciver returning to chronicle Hal's crafting of his very own ring from the force of willpower itself, sending tremors throughout the spectrum and its wielders as a warning that the light's greatest champion was coming back into the fight. Number 11. Titans. Geoff Johns made sure that his last major comic writing gig for the foreseeable future, shifting instead to DC Films, would be a memorable one by delivering the return fans had been begging for, Wally West. It may have been as memorable as a resurrection can get. It was his knowledge of strange threats behind his own appearance and the New 52 universe that piqued fan curiosities. But with Barry Allen still laying claim to the Flash comic in DC's lineup, to Titans Wally West soon fled. And once again, fans still glowing from seeing Wally return to his friends and family are in for a treat. Sure, the villainous Rogue Abracadabra has taken credit for making Wally disappear, and has since conjured up doppelgangers of the Titans' teen selves to tear them apart. But so far it's the welcome back tour that's satisfying fans. Seeing Wally and Barry reconnect was one thing, seeing the same reunions between Dick Grayson, Donna Troy, Roy Harper, Garth and more is a condensed reminder that the bonds established by the Teen Titans the first time around will be seeing Wally through, even if one Titan may have already been killed. Best moment so far. The massive group hug welcoming Wally back was a dream come true for the sentimental, but as we mentioned above, seeing the fully grown Titans taking on their younger, rawer, and less disciplined selves is just as cool as you would imagine. Plenty of that credit going to artists Brett Booth and Norm Rapmud. Number 12. Superman. When the New 52 was brought to a close with the death of one Superman, it went without saying that the solo Superman series would be a necessity to truly grasp the meaning and mystery of the handoff, and so far, the desire to give Clark Kent, Lois, and Jonathan the spotlight and a chapter of their own has succeeded. Even that brief an introduction to Superman's current complications should soften the blow of hearing that early on, Superman is juggling a few different tasks. The first of which being focused on helping Jonathan come to terms with his new powers, with special attention paid to his heat vision. Father and son team up before long, but then the real threat emerges. While the Man of Steel has been dealing with a villain from his past in the pages of Action Comics, Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason have pitted him against another reimagined opponent from the same comic book story, the Eradicator, an alien entity corrupted into destroying everything that is decrepito. It's a well-drawn, well-told trip down memory lane for older fans, but isn't just recycling old stories, either. In fact, the book has already given Lois Lane an unforgettable moment, a trip to Batman's moon base, a communion with the spirits of dead Kryptonians. You get the idea. Best moment so far, Tomasi and Gleason have delivered plenty of fan service moments already, but even better than Jonathan's comb punch with his dad or Lois donning a suit of armor to protect her son is the new origin of Jonathan Kent's own cape, taken from everyone's favorite canine, Krypto the Superdog. Number 13. Justice League. It goes without saying that in the event of any DC reboot or, in the case of Rebirth, a company-wide, in continuity returning to center, the Justice League is a title to keep a close eye on. And even though the heroes of the team have their own missions and villains to worry about in solo books, the collected team-up under Brian Hitch and artist Tony S. Daniel is hinting at a massive story and addition to DC mythology. The first Rebirth issue focused on an attack from a strange, mind-controlling, city-sized insect, but the Extinction Machine story in series proper is even bigger and even more vague. The average comic book reader won't need much convincing to pick up a Justice League comic, and Daniel's artwork is worth the price alone. But with a collection of enormous beings composed of humans absorbed into one massive form standing on all sides of the earth, united to apparently end all life, well, let's just say there's more than enough mystery and prophecy to go around. We don't yet know what the secret or history of the kindred is, but the scale and intrigue has us convinced Hitch is up to something special. Best moment so far, the mysterious kindred managing to drain the powers of both the Green Lantern and the Flash was confusing, but it started to make sense when issue number 3 ended with the beings appearing to condense the Speed Force, emotional spectrum, magic and cosmic side of the DC universe into physical form. Number 14. Green Lanterns. There were plenty of fans of both Jessica Cruz, winner of an alternate universe, then legitimate Green Lantern ring, and Simon Bus, new Lantern recruit from the New 52 launch, before they were given their very own team-up title, but Green Lanterns has doubled down in a big way. Writer Sam Humphries has focused his self-described Lethal Weapon-esque space cop adventure on the most controversial but more relevant aspects of each character, with artist Robson Rocha bringing it to life. For Simon, it's the fear and anger he still feels after false imprisonment on suspicion of terrorism, and for Jessica, it's crippling anxiety and self-doubt. That may make them unique, and much needed, reflections of readers, particularly those facing racial prejudice, or anxiety of their own, but it only makes work as a fearless, self-assured ringslinger more complicated. Making the most of that weakness, the Red Lanterns have struck Earth hard. With hopes of planting a rage seed in Earth's core, and slowly turning thousands of innocent humans into rage-fueled maniacs, the larger mysteries of a new Guardian, with a new ring, and Simon's gift of Emerald Sight will have to wait for their chance to expand on the hero's mythology. Best moment so far, every time Simon and Jessica suck it up and head into the fight is worth a cheer, but Simon actually purging rage from a Red Lantern, Blie, shows the ring and Simon is more powerful than previously thought. Her fate not long after is just as powerful, if infinitely more tragic. Number 15. Batman. No surprises here, one of DC's most iconic heroes helped lead the rebirth charge of returning to a character's core identity while breaking completely new ground. After a rebirth issue that introduced Batman's new costumed partner came an unforgettable, and Easter egg-filled, first issue that put Batman's mortality in the spotlight. But when he was at his most vulnerable, literally moments from death, two new figures arrived on the scene to save him, and completely changed the face of Gotham City. The arrival came in the form of two new superheroes, Gotham and Gotham Girl. Blessed with the powers of Superman, for simplicity's sake, the two young heroes were just as determined to protect Gotham as Bruce Wayne ever was. And with powers he could never gain himself, Batman accepted that these may be the successors Gotham truly needed. The story that followed saw Batman uncover the identities and origin story of Gotham and Gotham Girl, and the shadowy appearance of two nightmarish DC villains, and Amanda Waller. But it's the chilling reminder that someone with the power of a god can be as much of a threat as a savior that forms Tom King and David Finch's true story while setting the stage for the next major arc. Best moment so far, the recreation of an iconic Superman scene, with a horrifying twist, is a top contender, but there's just no competition when Alfred Pennyworth suits up as the Batman.